The jungle was alive with whispers. The trees were taller than any tower, their branches twisting like giant claws blocking out the stars. A heavy fog rolled between the roots, and every step the human took echoed louder than he wanted. People from the nearby villages had begged him not to enter this place. They said this was the land of the Ravenous alien females tribe. No one who entered here ever came back alive, but the human, whose name was Ethan, walked forward without fear. His boots sank into the wet ground, and his breath turned white in the cold night air. The stories he had heard were terrifying. Alien women with sharp teeth, burning eyes, and strength greater than 10 men. Hunters avoided this place. Soldiers never dared to march here. Yet Ethan pushed on, his backpack heavy and his rifle strapped across his chest. He was not a fool. He had heard enough to believe the danger was real. But he also believed something else. If everyone feared them, then maybe fear itself was their strongest weapon. And Ethan, unlike others, refused to bow to fear. The deeper he went, the stranger the jungle became. The trees bled sap that glowed faint green. The vines moved as if they had a life of their own, curling closer when he passed. Somewhere in the distance a scream echoed, a sharp, high-pitched cry that did not sound human. Ethan froze. His hand tightened on his rifle, though he kept the barrel pointed at the ground. The scream was followed by silence. No birds. No insects, no wind. Just silence, Ethan whispered to himself. So it begins. He walked carefully until he reached a clearing. The moonlight broke through the thick branches, lighting the ground with silver. There, scattered across the soil, lay bones. Dozens of them. Some were long and sharp, others wide and heavy. Many still had claw marks on them, as if they had been torn apart. Ethan crouched and touched one of the bones. It was cold old, but the danger was not in the past. The danger was watching him even now. From the shadows, pairs of eyes glowed. Yellow, orange, and red, circles of light staring at him. He counted at least 6, no 7. The ravenous alien females tribe had arrived. They moved closer, their steps silent, their bodies hidden by the fog. Ethan could not see their faces, but he could hear the sound of their breathing, low, heavy, animal-like. One of them growled. It was not the growl of a beast. It was deeper, mixed with words in a language Ethan did not know. The circle around him closed. The aliens stepped into the moonlight, and for the first time he saw them clearly. They were tall, taller than him by a full head. Their skin was pale blue, covered with strange dark markings like battle paint. Their hair was wild, flowing like black rivers down their backs. And their teeth, sharp, pointed, made for tearing flesh. Everyone who saw them trembled. Everyone who saw them ran. But Ethan did not move. The leader stepped forward. She was the tallest. Her muscles strong and defined, her eyes glowing brighter than the rest. Scars ran across her arms, proof of battles won. In her hand, she held a spear made from bone, its tip sharp and shining. She pointed it at Ethan's chest. The air grew heavy. Any normal man would have dropped his weapon and begged for life. Any normal man would have fallen to his knees. But Ethan stood tall, his hands open at his sides, showing no fear. The leader tilted her head. Her eyes narrowed. She stepped closer, close enough that Ethan could see her breath cloud the air between them. She spoke in her strange tongue, harsh and cutting, like the crack of stone. Ethan could not understand her words, but he understood her meaning. She was asking, "Why are you here?" Ethan's lips curved into a small smile. Slowly, calmly, he said, "I am not here to run. I am not here to beg. I'm here to see you." The tribe stirred, their voices hissing, their claws tapping against their weapons. None had ever heard a man speak with such calmness. None had ever faced a human who did not tremble before them. The leader leaned closer, her eyes locked with his, as if trying to read his soul. For a moment, the jungle held its breath. The fog froze. The trees stood silent. Even the bones seemed to wait. Then she raised her spear higher, her muscles tightening, ready to strike. Ethan did not move. His heart pounded, but his face showed nothing. He stood firm, waiting, daring her to make the first move. The leader's lips curled, not in anger, but in something else. A strange expression, almost curiosity. The spear stopped an inch from his chest. The ravenous alien females tribe, feared by all, had not yet killed him. Instead, their leader lowered her weapon slowly, her glowing eyes fixed on the one man who showed no fear. The jungle, which had been silent, seemed to breathe again. For the first time in years, The tribe had found something they had never seen before, a human who did not bow, and Ethan had found what he came for. This was only the beginning. The spear stopped an inch from Ethan's chest. The leader's arm trembled, not with weakness, but with hesitation. Around them, the tribe hissed, confused by her pause. These women were known to strike without mercy. They killed soldiers, hunters, and even armored raiders. Yet now before them stood one man, alive, untouched. Ethan held her gaze. His heartbeat pounded like a drum inside his chest, but his face showed calm strength. His refusal to bow had broken the first rule of fear. And that, more than his weapon, made the aliens hesitate. The leader finally lowered her spear and growled something in her language. The other women obeyed, though unease rippled through the group. Some sneered, their sharp teeth flashing in the moonlight. Others snarled, ready to leap and tear him apart. But the leader lifted her hand, keeping them back. Ethan exhaled slowly. His gamble had worked for now. Then the leader moved closer. She circled him like a predator studying prey. Her glowing eyes scanned his body, his strange human clothing, the weapon strapped across his back. Her fingers, long and tipped with claws, brushed against the fabric of his jacket. She tugged at it, curious. Ethan didn't resist. He let her examine him, though every nerve screamed to stay alert. He noticed how the tribe stared at him with both hunger and confusion. They were used to fear. They were used to screams. But Ethan's silence and control were foreign to them. Finally, the leader stopped circling. She let out a sharp cry, a command. The tribe closed in. Two women grabbed Ethan's arms, their grip like iron. He did not fight. He could have struggled, but he knew it would end badly. Instead, he allowed them to pull him deeper into the jungle. The fog thickened. Strange cries echoed from the trees, as though the jungle itself warned him to turn back. But Ethan walked calmly, his steps steady, his mind racing. Where were they taking him? After a long march, the trees opened into another clearing. This one was larger, filled with firelight. Dozens of alien women waited there, their bodies painted with blue and black marks. Skulls and bones hung from the trees like trophies. The air stank of blood and smoke. Ethan was pushed to the center. The tribe surrounded him in a wide circle, chanting in their guttural tongue. The sound rose higher and higher, filling the night. It was not just noise, it was ritual. The leader stepped forward, raising her spear to silence the voices. She shouted something, and the tribe quieted instantly. Then she pointed the spear at Ethan again. But this time her eyes were not filled with fury. They were filled with a strange, sharp intelligence. Ethan understood the test had only begun. The leader barked, and one of the women stepped forward. She was younger, but her muscles were strong, her claws sharp. She bared her teeth and roared a challenge. The tribe cheered, stomping their feet, shaking the bones that dangled from their necks. Ethan knew what this was. A trial, a fight. They wanted to see if he was worthy to live, or if he would be torn apart. The young warrior lunged at him. Ethan dodged quickly, stepping to the side. Her claws sliced through the air, missing his chest by inches. She snarled and came again, faster. Ethan ducked, rolling across the dirt. The tribe roared louder. He had his rifle, but he did not raise it. He knew the moment he fired, they would kill him all at once. No, this was not about weapons. This was about strength, about will. The warrior attacked again. This time Ethan blocked with his arm, taking the hit but grabbing her wrist tightly. He twisted, using her momentum against her, and threw her to the ground. The tribe gasped, surprised. The warrior growled, jumping up. She charged once more, but Ethan sidestepped and swept her legs out from under her. She crashed to the ground again, dust rising around her. Ethan stood tall, breathing hard but steady. He did not press the attack. He did not strike her while she was down. He simply waited, his eyes calm, his posture unshaken. The leader's eyes narrowed. She barked another command. The warrior froze, then slowly backed away, shame flashing across her face. The circle of women erupted into wild voices. Some shouted for his death, others hissed in disbelief. But the leader raised her spear, and silence fell once more. She studied Ethan for a long moment, her eyes glowing in the firelight. Then, for the first time, she spoke words in a language that Ethan almost understood. The words were broken, heavy, but clear enough. You... Not afraid? Ethan allowed a small smile. No, he answered firmly. Not afraid. The tribe stirred again, whispering among themselves. The leader's lips curled, not into a snarl this time, but something almost like amusement. She lowered her spear. The ritual was over. Ethan had passed the test. But deep inside, Ethan knew this was only the beginning. He had entered their world, and now he would have to survive it. The fire burned high in the center of the alien camp, its light dancing over the sharp features of the tribe. Ethan sat on the cold ground, his arms tied with thick vines. The women had dragged him here after the fight, their voices a storm of chants and snarls. Now he was a prisoner among them, but strangely, he was not yet dead. The tribe moved like predators, their glowing eyes watching him from the shadows. Some sharpened bones into weapons, others painted strange symbols across their skin with ash and blood. The jungle night pulsed with their energy, wild and untamed. Every moment reminded Ethan that he was deep in enemy territory, surrounded by those who wanted him gone. Yet the leader had not ordered his death. Not yet. She sat on a throne of carved wood and skulls, her massive spear resting across her lap. Her name whispered among the tribe was Kaurena. Her eyes never left Ethan, as though she was studying him the way a hunter studies rare prey. Hours passed before Kaurena rose. The tribe fell silent at her movement. She walked to Ethan, her heavy steps pressing the dirt. Then she cut the vines that held his arms. Ethan flexed his wrists but made no sudden move. Kaurena pointed to the fire. Two warriors stepped forward, carrying a giant slab of meat, thick, bloody, still steaming. They dropped it at Ethan's feet. The smell hit him like a wave, raw and iron-heavy. The tribe began to chant again. Their voices echoed through the trees. Ethan realized what this was. Another test. Kaurena's voice boomed. Eat or die, the meaning was clear. To prove himself, he had to share their food. The tribe did not eat like humans. They devoured raw flesh, straight from the kill. Ethan's stomach turned, but his face stayed calm. He crouched before the slab of meat. It was alien flesh, scales clinging to the sides, veins still pulsing faintly as though the creature had only just died. The tribe stared with hunger, waiting to see if the human would gag or refuse. Ethan's hands tightened into fists. He remembered the bones he had seen in the clearing. Those who refused must have ended there. Slowly he tore a piece free. The tribe roared louder. He lifted it to his mouth and bit down. The taste was sour, thick with blood. It fought against his throat. But he forced himself to chew, to swallow, to keep his expression steady. When he finished, he stood tall, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand. His eyes met Kaurena's. Satisfied? He asked, his voice calm. The tribe exploded into wild cheers. Some pounded their fists against the ground. Others hissed with approval. For the first time, Ethan saw something new in their eyes. Not hatred, not hunger, but a strange respect. Kaurena tilted her head, watching him in silence. Then she barked a command. Two women rushed forward, pulling him up by the arms. But instead of dragging him to death, they led him toward a massive wooden structure at the edge of the camp. It was a cage, made of thick roots and bones. Inside were other prisoners, alien men weak and broken, their eyes hollow with fear. They shrank back when Ethan was shoved inside with them. The gate slammed shut. Ethan gripped the bars, his eyes scanning the camp. The women had returned to their rituals, but Kaurena still stood near the fire, her eyes locked on him. In the shadows of the cage, a whisper reached his ear. One of the prisoners, an older alien male, leaned closer. His voice shook as he spoke. You should not be alive. No man survives the tribe. Ethan looked at him calmly. Then maybe I'm not like other men. The alien's eyes widened. For the first time, a spark of hope flickered in his expression. That night, Ethan lay in the cage listening to the chants and the drums. The Ravenous tribe celebrated long into the darkness, but Ethan did not sleep. He knew this was only the beginning. The fight was not just for survival now. Something deeper was happening. Kaurena's gaze, the hesitation in her strike, the strange tests, they meant something. She was not treating him like prey. She was treating him like a puzzle, and Ethan, tied by fate to this tribe, had no choice but to solve it. The jungle hummed and the fires burned. Tomorrow another trial awaited him. And Ethan was ready. The jungle before dawn was colder than Ethan expected. Mist clung to the ground, and every branch dripped with dew that glowed faintly under the pale moonlight. The tribe moved in silence, their bodies painted with fresh streaks of black and crimson. Each woman carried weapons, bone spears, curved blades, hooks carved from tusks. They looked like shadows of war, creatures born to hunt. and in their center, walking calmly though his hands were tied, was Ethan. Karenna, the leader, strode at the front. Her eyes glowed faintly in the gloom, sharper than any flame. At sunrise, the trial would begin. The trial of the hunt. Ethan had overheard whispers the night before. Men thrown into the jungle, forced to run while the tribe hunted them down for sport. None had ever returned. To them it was both ritual and entertainment. To Ethan it was another test, one that might decide if he lived or joined the bones scattered beneath the trees. The group reached a clearing. The women formed a wide circle, their chants shaking the morning air. Karenna raised her spear high and the sound fell to silence. She stepped forward, untied Ethan's hands, and pressed a clawed finger against his chest. "Hunt," she said, her voice low, broken but clear. Ethan looked into her eyes. "And if I win?" he asked. Karenna's lips curled, showing sharp teeth. "Then, tribe see you." The meaning was vague, but Ethan understood. Survival was the only way to earn respect. The ropes dropped from his wrists. For a moment, Ethan stood still, surrounded by a wall of glowing eyes. Then Karenna slammed the butt of her spear against the ground. The signal. The hunt began. Ethan ran. He bolted into the thick jungle, branches tearing at his arms and face. The ground was wet, sucking at his boots with every step. Behind him, the roar of the tribe rose, a storm of voices, wild and hungry. The women had unleashed themselves, and they were coming for him. Ethan's breath was steady. He knew panic would kill him faster than claws. He weaved through trees, leaping over roots, ducking under low branches. The jungle was alive with sound. Cracking wood, snapping twigs, the pounding of many feet. A spear flew past his head, burying itself in a tree trunk. Another sliced the air near his leg. The women were closing in fast. Ethan's eyes scanned the ground. He spotted a fallen branch, thick and sharp on one end. He snatched it up as he ran, fashioning it into a crude spear. It wasn't much, but it was something. Suddenly, a figure dropped from the trees ahead. One of the warriors, tall, painted, her claws flashing. She lunged. Ethan raised the branch, blocking her strike. The impact rattled his arms. He shoved her back and swung, striking her across the shoulder. She stumbled but didn't fall. Another warrior crashed from the bushes on his left. Ethan had no time. He ducked, rolling across the dirt, and the two women collided with each other, snarling like beasts. He didn't stay to watch. He ran deeper, lungs burning, muscles screaming, but the jungle itself turned against him. The fog grew thicker, the ground steeper. He stumbled into a ravine, the slope crumbling beneath his boots. He slid down into darkness, landing hard against the rocks below. Pain shot through his side, but he forced himself up. Above, glowing eyes peered down at him. The women were watching, waiting. Then Karenna herself dropped into the ravine. She landed like a predator, silent, steady, her spear pointed at his chest. The others did not follow. This was her moment. Ethan tightened his grip on the branch. His chest heaved, his arms ached, but his eyes locked with hers. Neither spoke. For a long moment they circled each other in the mist. Karenna struck first. Her spear shot forward fast as lightning. Ethan barely twisted aside, the tip grazing his ribs. He countered, thrusting the branch at her midsection, but she parried with a sharp twist, splintering the wood. Again she attacked, the spear whistling through the air. Ethan dodged once, twice, but she was faster, stronger. The branch cracked under the next strike, leaving him with only a jagged piece. But Ethan's eyes burned with focus. He ducked low, grabbed a fistful of dirt and threw it into her face. Karenna snarled, blinded for a second. That was enough. Ethan lunged forward, tackling her against the ravine wall. Her spear clattered to the ground. For a moment the two struggled, their breaths heavy, muscles straining. Karenna's claws scraped against Ethan's back, but he held her wrist, forcing her arm down. Their faces were inches apart, their eyes locked in fire. Then slowly Karenna stopped struggling. She stared into his eyes, searching, measuring. Her lips curled into something that wasn't anger, something closer to respect. The tribe above roared, their voices echoing through the trees. Karenna shoved Ethan back, hard enough to make him stumble, but she did not strike again. Instead, she picked up her spear and raised it high. Her voice carried through the jungle, human. Not prey. The women above hissed and growled, but they did not attack. Ethan stood tall, chest heaving, blood dripping from his side. He had survived the trial of the hunt. And in the fire of Karena's eyes, he saw something more than survival. He saw the beginning of an alliance neither side could have imagined. The jungle quieted after the hunt, but the silence was heavy, not peaceful. Ethan walked back toward the camp with the tribe, his arms unbound but his body sore. His ribs ached where Karena's spear had grazed him, and scratches burned across his back. Yet he walked tall, his face calm, refusing to let them see weakness. Around him, the Ravenous tribe whispered in low tones. Their glowing eyes flickered between hunger and uncertainty. No man had ever survived the trial of the hunt. No man had stood against Karena and lived. Yet this human had not only lived, he had forced their leader to recognize him. Karena led the way, her spear across her shoulders, her steps steady and proud. But Ethan noticed the tension in the women behind her. They were not united. Some respected him now, murmuring words he could not understand but whose tone was softer. Others spat in the dirt at his feet, their teeth bared, their claws twitching for blood. Back at the camp, the fires burned again. Skulls rattled in the wind and drums pounded slow and deep. Ethan was pushed into the circle once more, surrounded by dozens of alien faces. Karena raised her spear, calling for silence. Her voice thundered through the night. She spoke in her language, fierce and commanding. The tribe shouted back, some voices in agreement, others filled with rage. Ethan stood still, watching. He could not understand the words, but he understood the meaning. Karena was defending him, but not everyone wanted him alive. Finally, she turned to him. Her words came rough, but she forced them into his language. Tribe. Divided. Some want you. Dead. Some see. Warrior. Ethan's eyes narrowed. He answered firmly. And what do you see? The circle gasped. No one spoke to Karena that way. Yet she did not strike him. Her lips curled slightly, showing the edges of sharp teeth. I see. Both. The tribe roared again, half in anger, half in awe. Then one of the younger warriors stepped forward. Her body was lean, her eyes burning with fury. She slammed her clawed hand against her chest and growled. Ethan understood even before Karena translated. She challenge you. The circle widened. Ethan's muscles tightened, but Karena raised her hand. She barked at the young warrior, silencing her. Then she looked back at Ethan. No fight. Tonight, you live, but tribe watch you. Ethan nodded slowly. Then let them watch. That night he was not thrown into the cage. Instead, they gave him a place near the fire. It was not comfort, but it was not death. The tribe ate and sang around him, their rituals wild and strange. Ethan sat apart, studying them, learning. Karena sat across the fire, her gaze never leaving him. He wondered what she was thinking. He wondered why she hesitated to kill him. There was something in her eyes he could not read. Hours passed. Slowly the noise died down as the tribe settled into sleep. Only the fires crackled, throwing shadows against the trees. Ethan felt movement near him. He turned and saw the older alien prisoner, the one from the cage, slip into the circle of firelight. His eyes darted nervously, but his voice was low. You are changing them, the alien whispered. Ethan frowned. Changing them how? They fear nothing, except you. You did not run. You did not beg. Now their leader doubts. That is dangerous. Ethan leaned closer. Dangerous for me? The alien shook his head slowly. For all of us. If the tribe sees strength in a man, their world changes. Some will kill you for it. Some will follow you. That divide may tear them apart. Before Ethan could answer, a sudden roar broke the night. A warrior leapt from the shadows, claws flashing. She struck at him without warning, her face twisted with rage. Ethan rolled aside, the claws missing his throat by inches. He grabbed a burning stick from the fire and swung it, the flames cutting through the dark. The warrior hissed, backing away, but her eyes were filled with bloodlust. The tribe woke instantly, voices rising in chaos. Warriors rushed forward, some to kill Ethan, others to stop the attacker. Karena's voice thundered above them all, her spear striking the ground with a crack. Stop! The camp froze. Karena stalked forward, her eyes blazing. She grabbed the young attacker by the throat and lifted her into the air. The warrior struggled, but Karena's strength was absolute. With a snarl, she threw the woman to the ground. Then, shockingly, Karena turned to Ethan. Fight her, she commanded. Ethan blinked. Now? Karena's eyes burned. Now. Prove. The tribe roared again, a storm of voices demanding blood. The young warrior crouched low, ready to pounce, her claws catching the firelight. Ethan tightened his grip on the burning stick. His body ached, his muscles screamed, but his eyes stayed steady. He knew there was no escape. This was not just survival anymore. This was about becoming something more than prey. And as the circle closed in, as Karenna watched with fire in her eyes, Ethan prepared himself. The trial of strength had begun. The circle of fire roared high, throwing shadows across the alien camp. Every eye in the Ravenous tribe glowed with hunger as they pressed closer, their chants rising like thunder. Ethan stood at the center, a burning stick in his hand, sweat dripping down his back. Across from him crouched the young warrior who had tried to kill him in the night. Her teeth bared, claws extended, fury in every breath. Karenna stood just outside the circle, her spear planted firmly in the ground. Her voice cut through the chants like a blade. Fight, no run. No beg, fight, warrior. The tribe screamed with excitement, stomping the earth, their voices shaking the air. Ethan tightened his grip on the flaming stick. His body was exhausted, but his mind was sharper than ever. He knew this was more than survival. This was judgment. If he fell now, the tribe would rip him apart. If he stood, he could no longer be seen as prey. The warrior struck first. She moved like lightning, claws slicing through the air. Ethan dodged, swinging the burning stick. Fire brushed across her arm and she hissed, retreating for a heartbeat before circling again. The crowd roared, half cheering for her, half howling for his blood. Ethan breathed deep, remembering Karenna's words, prove. The warrior lunged again, this time faster. Ethan blocked with the stick, but her strength snapped it in two. Flames scattered across the dirt. Now he was unarmed. She grinned, fangs catching the firelight. She charged, claws aimed for his chest. Ethan sidestepped, catching her wrist mid-swipe. He twisted, using her own momentum to throw her to the ground. The tribe gasped, their chants breaking for a moment, but she was up in an instant, faster than Ethan expected. She leapt, tackling him hard. They crashed into the dirt, rolling near the fire. Her claws slashed across his shoulder, hot pain tearing through him. Ethan grunted, grabbing her arm before the next strike. He slammed his forehead into hers, stunning her for a second. Using the chance, he rolled on top, pinning her arms. The tribe screamed louder, stamping their feet, the circle shaking like a storm. Some cried for her victory. Others shouted Ethan's name, his human name broken in their guttural voices. Karenna's eyes burned as she watched. She did not move. She was waiting. The warrior spat in Ethan's face and bucked violently, almost throwing him off. Her knee slammed into his ribs. Pain shot through him, but he held tight, forcing her back down. His hand pressed against her throat. One squeeze and it would end. But Ethan froze. His chest heaved, his blood dripped into the dirt, but his mind raced. He had killed before, in other wars, on other worlds, but here something was different. If he crushed her throat, the tribe would respect him, but they might also fear him forever. If he spared her, they might see weakness. Or something greater. The warrior clawed at his arm, gasping. The firelight reflected in her wild eyes. Ethan made his choice. With a growl, he slammed her down once more, hard enough to rattle her bones. Then he released her throat and stood tall, stepping back. His chest rose and fell, but his eyes stayed sharp. He had beaten her. He had proved his strength. But he had not killed her. The tribe went silent. Every eye glowed in the firelight. The warrior coughed, struggling to rise. Her pride was broken, her fury drained. She bowed her head just slightly, but it was enough. Karenna stepped forward. She looked first at the young warrior, then at Ethan. Her voice thundered, "He win! He, warrior!" The tribe erupted. Some cheered wildly, beating their weapons against the ground. Others hissed in rage, unwilling to accept a man as warrior. The circle split in two, chaos ripping through the camp. But Karenna raised her spear high. The sound cut like thunder, silencing them again. She looked at Ethan, her glowing eyes steady. "You strong. Not prey, but—" Her voice hardened. "Not yet, tribe." Ethan wiped blood from his shoulder, his face calm despite the pain. "Then what am I?" Karenna's lips curled into something between a snarl and a smile. "Test not done. Last trial. Coming," the tribe howled at her words. The fire crackled higher, sparks dancing into the night sky. Ethan stood in the circle, his body battered, his blood staining the dirt. He had survived hunger. He had survived the hunt. He had survived the fight. But the greatest trial still waited, and Ethan knew. It would decide not only his fate, but the future of the tribe itself. The jungle air was heavy with smoke and silence. The Ravenous tribe gathered in the largest clearing Ethan had seen yet. Fires burned in tall pits, their flames painting the night sky red. Skulls and bones hung from branches, clattering in the wind like ghostly drums. Every warrior of the tribe stood here tonight, dozens of glowing eyes fixed on one man. Ethan stood at the center once again, his body marked with cuts and bruises from trials past. His ribs still ached, his shoulder still burned from claws, but he held his ground. His calm stare cut through the thick air. Karenna stood before him, taller, sharper, her spear shining in the firelight. She raised it high, her voice thundering across the camp. Last trial. No hunt, no fight. No food. Trial of spirit, the tribe roared at her words. Ethan's heart pounded. He had faced beasts, warriors, and hunger, but this sounded different. Karenna stepped closer, her eyes glowing like embers. Tribe believe. Man weak, weak heart, weak spirit. Tonight, you prove. Two warriors dragged something forward from the shadows. Ethan's breath caught. It was the old alien prisoner, the one who had whispered warnings to him in the cage. His wrists were bound, his face pale with fear. The crowd howled, stamping the ground, their voices rising into a frenzy. Karenna's voice boomed again. Kill him, take life. Show tribe you strong. Ethan's eyes narrowed. He looked at the trembling alien before him. Then he looked back at Karenna. And if I refuse? Her expression was unreadable. Then, tribe, kill you both. The chanting grew louder, wild, demanding blood. Warriors slammed weapons against the dirt, their teeth flashing in the firelight. Ethan's hands clenched into fists. He had expected pain, expected death, but not this. This was not a test of his body. It was a test of who he truly was. The old prisoner's eyes met his. They were wide, pleading, but filled with resignation. He had lived long enough among these women to know there was no escape. Ethan took a step forward. The chants grew louder, expecting him to strike. A bone knife was shoved into his hand. Its edge gleamed sharp and cruel. He weighed it in his palm. The weight of choice. He looked around the circle, at the warriors who hated him, at the ones who respected him, at Karenna, whose face was carved from stone. Then Ethan dropped the knife into the dirt. The crowd gasped, their voices rising in shock. Ethan's voice thundered above them. I will fight. I will bleed. But I will not kill an innocent to prove strength. If that is weakness, then I am weak. If that is death, then I face it now. The tribe erupted in chaos. Some screamed for his blood, others howled in rage. Warriors surged forward, but Karenna raised her spear and the ground seemed to shake with her roar. Enough! The voices died instantly. Karenna's eyes blazed as she stepped into the circle, standing between Ethan and the tribe. She looked at the knife in the dirt, then back at him. You refuse death. Ethan stood tall. I refuse cruelty. Silence. Then slowly Karenna lifted her spear high. Her words came sharp and fierce. Strong. Stronger than prey. Stronger than warrior. Stronger than fear. The tribe's eyes widened. Karenna slammed her spear into the ground, sparks flying. This man. No prey, this man. No enemy, this man. Tribe. The air seemed to split with her words. Some warriors shouted in anger, but most roared in wild approval. Their voices shaking the forest, Ethan stood still, his heart hammering. He had not killed. He had not bowed. And somehow that had been enough. The old prisoner fell to his knees, tears in his eyes. Ethan pulled him up gently. For the first time, he saw hope in the man's face. Karenna moved closer, towering over Ethan. For a heartbeat, the firelight caught something almost human in her expression. Respect, curiosity, perhaps something more. She raised her clawed hand, pressing it hard against his chest. Her voice was low, meant only for him. You are first man. Tribe call equal. The jungle roared with the tribe's chants, but Ethan only met her eyes. He had come as prey. He had survived as warrior. And now, in the heart of the fiercest tribe in the galaxy, he had become something greater. The last trial was over, but the story of Ethan and the Ravenous tribe had only just begun.